Richard Paterson is the chief blender for the Isle of Jura and the Dalmore. We ask him for some tips on nosing and his philosophies on whiskey.
Jura, recently, we've actually increased the phenol level, and it's much heavier in style and quite different. And that's why, in fact, we've actually put on the Jura Superstition, because we've actually put heavy phenolic tones coming through towards the end. But one thing you must do, and if I can just show you, is that quite often we saw people coming up and going like this, when in actual fact, it's just swirling around, putting in, saying hello, then getting into it, said, how are you? And then you say, quite well, thank you very much. Instead of, like this, you should really get your beak right into it so that there's nowhere else it can escape, is up your nose, but doing it softly and using one nostril instead of two, because one is better than the other. So if in fact they had taken maybe perhaps a little bit more time taking it without any noise. There was a lot of noise last night. The concentration level would probably have gone down because of it. But if they had taken a little bit more concentration, a little bit more nosing, sipping, savouring, then they could maybe have come up with a better result. But it was still excellent, very difficult. I have problems with noise and smell. When you come into my sample room, it is absolutely dead quiet. And what I have to do is, when you saw the whiskies last night, as you see the whiskies just now, the whiskies are cold. What I always do with my whiskies, I actually smell them at high strength to begin with. Let them bed down, then I add water, take it down to about 30% alcohol, and then I assess it again. Then I even leave it. You can always pick up what you think of that whiskey in a matter of seconds. But if you want to do it really properly, let it drift over a matter of hours and then make your final decision. Don't just go in and say, this is not right. Let the air, let the room, let the noise settle down before you make the final one. If you take our Dalmore 12-year-old, we're talking about 160 hogsheads, 30 of which have been kept aside, which are for Oloroso sherry butts. The remaining 70%, that's 70% American white oak and 30% Oloroso. So we take up to about 160 and then put them together and hold them for about 4 or 5 months to let the sherries dwindle and come and harmonize with each other. The 21-year-old obviously will be much, much less, about 40 casks. You get up to a 30-year-old, you're talking about 2 or 3 casks, a 50-year-old 1 cask, 62-year-old 1 cask. They all have their own particular style. They have to be carefully nurtured. I'd like to say that any of my products, I have a signature on it, so they'll be all difficult, they're all temperamental, they're like people. Single malts are like people. You have to look after them, you have to treat them correctly. If you treat them correctly, then they'll come up with the ideal quality. So really, all of them are difficult, but they're fantastic at the end of the day. We have the right tools, but what they might happen is that the maturation has not achieved the quality that I'm looking for. What I will do is then bring older whiskies into that if I can. The accountants don't like it, by the way. But what I do is I bring in these to bring in the quality that I'm looking for. Because 15, 20 years ago, the wood management at that time was not as good as it is today. And I don't care what anybody says, wood management 25, 30 years ago was pick and choose. Now we've got it down to a fine art. So we're looking for the styles. We don't want immaturity, we want maturity, softness, richness. That's why when you go back, I keep going back to Superstition, you're going to see the 13-year-old styles bedding in the mouth. You need to wait for it, and then the 21-year-old kicks in to give it that length and style at the end of the day. That's what it's all about. But making sure that the people here are appreciating, but they must take their time. Single malts is not for just knocking back. You must keep it, tame it, tame it. If it's mature for 12 years, give at least 12 seconds in your mouth. All these whiskey festivals, like for instance, coming down here to Jura today, 50 people were meant to be here. We're up to 95 already. You've got whiskey festivals in America, you've got Tokyo, all around the world. Go to Frankfurt, 3 days, 10,000 people. And they're not old people, they're young people. All this business about old people, that don't, it's no young people don't drink it. That's not true. It is many young people that are getting into it. But the Whiskey West festivals, in particular the Whiskey magazine, which is now going to celebrate its 5th year, has raised the profile tremendously. And the people here today, they're not just lovers, they're passionate about their products. The same passion that we have to put into whiskey to make it come alive. So it's here to stay.